Discover the amazing transformation. When a single mom sleeps on a billionaire's shoulder, the struggles of life shift in unexpected ways. Sarah felt like a ghost in the opulent ballroom, a stark contrast to the shimmering world of the elites swirling around her. The laugh of a fellow server rang in her ears as she adjusted her long dress, a borrowed piece that clung uncomfortably to her frame. Here she was, just a hard-working single mother, 32, drowning under bills that seemed to multiply by the hour, and the weight of dreams she dared to nurture, becoming a nurse and giving her children the life they deserved. She stole a glance at her son, his wide eyes full of excitement as he clutched artwork for the school's silent auction, unaware of the turmoil brewing within her. Fatigue crept in stealthily, dragging her mind into shadowy corners of doubt. How did she wind up here, surrounded by gilded expectations and superficial laughter, when her reality was a ceaseless cycle of shifts at the diner and homework piled high on the kitchen table? She tightened her grip on her phone as she checked her messages again, hoping for any answer to come through about her nursing school application. What if she failed again? What if becoming a nurse was merely a distant star, forever out of reach? Before she could drown in her swirling thoughts, a flicker of attention pulled her back. Ethan, the enigmatic billionaire, leaned closer, his voice a warm balm against her burdens. Their conversation danced lightly, a welcome escape from her life of constant calculation and worry. But with every laugh, the wall of uncertainty around her grew thicker. She caught herself leaning into him, warmth flooding both her cheeks and her heart. A fleeting moment of intimacy, a brief sigh of relief. Then, she drifted into slumber against his shoulder, comforted for a heartbeat. But sleep hadn't lasted long. Emerging from the depths of her dreams, echoes of a harsh reality jolted her awake, the unmistakable sound of a voice filled with anger slicing through the celebration. Sarah's ex-husband stood nearby, his presence a storm cloud overshadowing her brief moment of peace. The demand struck like lightning, filled with threats and accusations, unraveling her hard-fought courage. He wanted control, he wanted her to shrink back into fear. Suddenly, Ethan was there, his stature a protective barrier, a stark contrast to the bitterness of her past. He moved instinctively, offering a lifeline she thought long buried. But as she struggled to comprehend it all, another wave of panic hit her. What would this mean for her children? Could she trust someone with so much at stake? The questions spiraled, chanting in her head as she faced him, her heart racing with both gratitude and dread. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Ethan's gaze was unwavering, an anchor in her tidal wave of uncertainty. As she fought back a surge of questions about their connection, the weight of her dreams flickered behind her eyes. Could she dare to chase the nursing program, knowing it might mean handing over her children to a man she feared? The stakes were endless, stretching in all directions like shadows at twilight. Yet, as Sarah stood there, a revelation bloomed within her. True empowerment lay not in expectations but in choices. Despite the heavy burden of her reality, she needed to reclaim her narrative. But just as her resolve began to strengthen, the noise of the gala swirled around her, and she felt the chasm of their worlds widen. Would she lose sight of herself in the pursuit of ambition, or become ensnared in a new entanglement that risked everything she had fought for? Their eyes locked. She could sense the fragility in the air. The balance between ambition and family hung there, unseen but palpable. Desperation clawed at her throat, leaving her breathless as she stood at a precipice, questioning if she could leap toward her dreams without being consumed by the shadows of her past. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she stood on the brink, navigating the foreign tension that encased her. The pulse of the ballroom around her, the clinking glasses, the laughter that seemed to mock her struggle felt like a cacophony that threatened to drown her. Uncertainty gnawed at her soul. Could she trust Ethan, a man from such a different world? What if he became yet another source of chaos in her life? She tore her gaze from Ethan, forcing herself to look past the lavish decor and the crowd that pulsed with status and privilege. Her son's happy laughter cut through the haze, a reminder of what mattered most, his future and that of his sister. She reached for her phone again, hoping against hope for any update on her nursing application. Would she ever hear back? The anticipation sizzled in her veins, mingling with the ache of her ever-present anxiety. An unfamiliar warmth met her hand, and she turned to find Ethan beside her, concern etched in his features. "Are you all right?" His voice was low, a gentle tether to reality. The sincerity in his eyes ignited something within her, a fleeting flicker of hope that clashed violently with the fear that had taken root in her heart. A part of her wanted to say yes, to lean into his comfort and let go of the burden that threatened to crush her. But another part screamed at her to retreat, to protect her children from uncertainty. She hesitated, glancing at her son who now held his drawing with pride. "I can't shake the feeling of being lost." In that moment, Sarah confronted the duality of her emotions. She questioned the frailty of her ambitions contrasted against her dire circumstances. She'd always pushed herself, juggling work and motherhood, setting aside her dreams for the sake of providing. Yet, could she allow herself to dream again, to believe she was worthy of more than survival? Ethan watched her intently, waiting for her to continue. His presence was magnetic, drawing out the words trapped beneath layers of doubt. "I'm scared," she finally admitted, her voice scarcely above a whisper. "Scared of failing, of losing everything I've fought for. I want to be a nurse, but I don't want to lose my children in the process." Ethan's expression softened, and he reached out, lightly touching her arm. "You won't lose them, Sarah. Your children are your greatest motivation. What you want for them is the reason to pursue your dreams." His words resonated deep within her, reverberating against the insecurities that had long haunted her. But an intrusive thought struck her. What if the path she chose led her into even darker waters? The battle within escalated, recalling the bitter memories of her ex-husband's control and volatility. Could trusting Ethan mean inviting trouble into her life again? As doubts slowly faded, fleeting clarity emerged. Instead of allowing her fears to paralyze her, Sarah could channel that very fear into determination. She wasn't merely a victim of her circumstances, she was a fighter, one who had lessons yet to learn, and strengths yet to discover. With newfound purpose sparking within her, she took a step closer to Ethan, ready to embrace not only the courage to dream but also the wisdom to hold her ground. "I need to choose the right path for me and my children." The night had transformed from a daunting spectacle to a canvas where she could paint her future. As she resolved to stand tall against the uncertainty stretching before her, the gust of hope filled her chest. Yet, just as she felt the tides shifting in her favor, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. A message flashed on the screen, an update from the nursing school application. Anxiety twisted her stomach as she hesitated, the moment teetering on the brink of revelation. Was this the opportunity she had been waiting for, or would it serve only as another reminder of the obstacles in her way? With a deep breath, Sarah's resolve hardened. She would face whatever challenges lay ahead, driven by the relentless tide of her ambition. The decision was hers to seize, and with it came the realization that she couldn't retreat anymore. What would this new journey demand from her? And would she be able to rise above the shadows of her past without losing herself in the process? She steeled herself for the next chapter, ready to uncover the truth whatever it may bring. The buzz of her phone sliced through the atmosphere, abruptly anchoring Sarah back into reality. Her breath hitched as she glanced down, heart racing. The screen illuminated a message from the nursing school, unread and heavy with implication. She could feel the anticipation, a storm brewing in her stomach. Could this be the moment that changed everything? Glancing up, she found Ethan still observing her, a quiet strength radiating from him that both intrigued and unsettled her. Those dark eyes, searching her own, seemed to peel away layers of her defenses. He didn't just see her as a single mother clinging to survival, he saw potential. "What does it say?" he prompted gently, reminding her that she wasn't facing this alone, even amidst the chaos. Sarah was torn. There was an urgency to open the message and confront the outcome, yet a profound fear rooted her in place. What if the news was bad? What if she was forever stuck in her current fate? The weight of all her previous failures crept in. Would this just be another dismissal, another setback? Taking a fleeting glance over at her children, their innocent joy contrasting her turmoil, propelled her into action. She felt the hollow ache of too many disappointments, audibly swallowing hard as she clicked on the message. The words blurred momentarily, her eyes unfocused as she processed the contents. Acceptance. A single word imbued with the power to rewrite her narrative. The acceptance letter glimmered like a beacon, filling her with an overwhelming mix of relief and fear. She was in. But with that acceptance came another layer of emotional complexity. This was the beginning of a journey that would undoubtedly involve sacrifices, time, energy, and the constant balancing act of parenthood. The reality of being a nursing student while nurturing her children weighed on her like lead. "I got in," she whispered, half in disbelief, half in amazement. Ethan's eyes sparkled with pride, and she felt the warmth of shared triumph. Yet as quickly as joy blossomed, doubt threatened to creep back in. Could she manage this new challenge? Was she capable of navigating the lines between ambition and motherhood? Ethan, sensing the conflict swirling within her, asked, "What do you feel about this?" His question hung in the air, a tender yet probing invitation to confront her emotions and fears. "I feel scared," she admitted, surprised at the honesty that poured from her. "Excited, yes, but mostly terrified. What if this all falls apart? What if I can't do it?" Being scared means you're not settling for anything less than what you deserve. It means you're pushing yourself. His encouragement wrapped around her like a blanket, staving off the chill of doubt that threatened to settle into her bones. Sarah pondered his words, the implications rippling through her mind. If she was to embrace this new path, she would need to nurture not only her ambitions but also the courage to face the challenges head-on. Growth wouldn't be easy, it never was. Yet, hadn't she always faced adversity? Hadn't she learned to wield her fears as instruments of power, instead of shackles? Could I really make this work? She mused out loud, the resolve within her gradually coalescing into something more tangible. There was a tremor of hope igniting in her chest, aligning with her deep-seated ambition. "You can," Ethan assured. "Every journey begins with a first step. Just make sure you take it knowing that you're capable of more than you realize." His words soaked into her like rain on parched earth, and Sarah began to acknowledge the whispers of self-doubt as echoes of her past, not as scripts for her future. Perhaps trusting Ethan wasn't a maneuver toward chaos but rather a step toward mutual growth. Yes, she was a single mother, a caretaker, but she was also a woman with dreams waiting to be rekindled. As they stood amidst the glamour of the ballroom, a place so full of surface-level success, Sarah felt the depths of her identity expanding. She was more than a victim. You could not dismiss the quiet warrior forged by her struggles. An internal resolve surged, bloomed. Yet, just as confidence surged, the uncertain weight of her ex-husband's shadow flickered in her mind, reminding her of the turbulence that could still threaten her newfound stability. With the nursing program's acceptance weighing against her past, Sarah was left confronted with an aching truth. To move forward would mean tackling both the career she'd longed for and the change she still felt bound by. Was she truly ready for the confluence of her old and new realities to collide? The question lingered like an unanswered text message, a notification awaiting her response. Would she summon the strength to confront her past while stepping boldly into a future she'd fought so hard to claim? The moment was electric, clinging to her like a lingering perfume as Sarah turned away from the glimmering ballroom. The acceptance letter in her hand felt heavier now, weighed down by the gravity of the choices ahead. With each step, she teetered on the precarious edge between past and potential, the shadows of her former life nipping at her heels. Navigating through the crowd, Sarah felt a jolt of clarity. Inhaling deeply, she summoned the courage to engage with her fears, allowing the truth to unfurl like a fragile flower in her heart. The reality of her situation surged forward, not as an insurmountable wall but rather as a collection of hurdles to leap over. Ethan's words echoed in her mind, each syllable filling her veins with determination. Yet, beneath that determination lurked a truth she was loath to confront. Her ex-husband's re-emergence in her life was imminent. The impending confrontation felt like a tempest, ready to disrupt the fragile peace she had begun to cultivate. As she reached her car, she hesitated, the rhythmic thud of her heartbeat warning her against retreat. The dread cocooning around her tightened, and she grappled with how to regain control over her narrative. With every breath, she reminded herself that she had faced storms before and had always emerged, albeit bruised. But this journey felt different. It was rooted in her ambition, her children's future, and ultimately, her own rebirth. Driving back home, the streets lit with evening lights, she formulated a strategy to balance her passions. Each curve and turn reminded her of the path she would have to carve not just for herself but for her children. A despairing thought flickered: what if they struggled to align themselves with her ambitions? In the sanctuary of her home, Sarah found solace in her children's laughter. The sight of their joy, innocent and unabashed, filled her with warmth. She had to succeed. For them. With every passing day in her nursing program, each moment as a dedicated mother, she envisioned a future brimming with possibilities. But a sharp pang pricked at her heart. What if this pursuit came at a price? At times, she feared losing sight of their needs amidst her ambitions, and for that, she felt guilt gnawing at her insides. In this delicate dance of aspirations and responsibilities, could she strike the right balance? The evening sun dipped beneath the horizon as she settled down with her children, letting their critic's presence momentarily wash away her apprehension. Their bright eyes mirrored dreams of their own, a reflection of determination she was learning to embrace. As they shared stories about their day, their laughter ignited something deep within her. Realizing she needed to transition, Sarah sought moments of quiet to reflect on her internal conflicts. Quiet resolve began to wrap around her fears like a comforting cloak. The push for personal growth had to coincide with nurturing their aspirations too. With a sudden clarity, she understood that this journey would be as much about teaching her children how to face challenges as it would be about embracing her own expansion. As she tucked them in that night, an idea began to take shape. What if she could involve them in her journey? They could have insights into her nights of studying, conversations about the medical field, and even the sacrifices she needed to make. Today's uncertainty might become a lesson for them tomorrow. However, her turbulent past with her ex-husband still loomed over her, an unresolved conflict threatening to disrupt her new equilibrium. As she tossed and turned that night, his warnings and accusations echoed in her mind, intertwining with the dreams of what she wanted to accomplish. Would he throw his weight around just as she began to embrace her own strength? Clearly, the time was nearing for her to reclaim her narrative from his shadow. She had to face him. This looming confrontation demanded she acknowledge her worth beyond the chains he had once fashioned around her. Tomorrow would hold decisions that could transform their story. The question pinned her to the mattress: was she ready to break those chains once and for all? Daylight crept into Sarah's room, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper doubts into her ear. She stirred, feeling the weight of yesterday's resolve crystallizing within her. Today was the day she had to confront her ex-husband, accept the swell of fear and transform it into something productive. She had built herself a solid foundation, and now it was time to fortify it. For so long, he had loomed large in her life, a specter of her past dictating the terms of engagement. That needed to end. As she absorbed every moment with her children, she realized that they had become the compass guiding her toward a brighter future. Her structure was shared. It depended not only on her alone but on their collective dreams. She gathered her strength, knowing full well that this confrontation could potentially unravel her, but it could also weave a new fabric of freedom. That urge pulsed through her as she prepared. She dressed with intention, choosing an outfit that resonated with her renewed identity, a blend of professionalism and warmth, a reminder that she was no longer trapped in the cocoon of their past but rather morphing into a vibrant butterfly, ready to take flight. As she drove toward the cafe where they agreed to meet, her heart drummed a determined rhythm. She recited her upcoming points firm, yet measured. The essence of what she would say lay in reclaiming her narrative. Fragments of previous encounters brushed against her thoughts. Those fraught discussions had devolved into chaos. This time, she would maintain control, rooted in her worth. When she arrived, a knot formed in her stomach as she spotted him seated at a corner table, an expression she recognized too well plastered on his face, part indignation, part arrogance. She took a deep breath, focused on the echoes of laughter shared with her children. Their innocence renewed her purpose. "Sarah," he greeted with a condescending nod as she approached. "Jake," she replied curtly. She was not here to relive the past. she was here to encapsulate the future. As they exchanged small pleasantries, she could feel the facade of normalcy drain away. His gaze flickered with a blend of an old familiarity and something more possessive. Yet, she refused to fall into the emotional quicksand. "Let us cut to the chase," Sarah began, her voice steady as she initiated her carefully crafted conversation. "I want to discuss co-parenting. The kids deserve a strong partnership. They need both of us." He scoffed slightly, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed. "You think you can just go to nursing school and make it all mean something? You're still the same person I left behind." His words prodded at her vulnerabilities, intensifying the emotional battle within. But beneath that sting lay a burgeoning confidence. The desire to rise above his opinions propelled her forward. "You're mistaken. I've grown, and I will keep growing. I hope you can support that growth." An electric pause ensued as the weight of her statement settled between them. Jake's expression shifted, surprise mingled with skepticism, but he didn't speak. The air thickened with unspoken tension, oscillating between defensiveness and an acknowledgement she had never seen before. "I'm not asking for your approval anymore," she pressed on, feeling the warmth of determination adding fire to her words. "I want to include you in their lives, but on equal footing. No more undermining." Finally, she was giving voice to her boundaries. It felt liberating yet daunting. The fear of retaliation curled within her, questioning whether she had indeed stepped too far. "But what are you really after, Sarah?" he queried, his tone shifting to a faux challenge. It was then she realized he had underestimated her resolve. "I'm after peace and stability, not just for me, but for our children. We can either figure this out respectfully, or I'll have to do it without you." With that, she watched as he processed her words, and for the first time, uncertainty flickered across his features. In this moment, clarity settled over her like a shield. This confrontation was not merely about battling him, it was about stepping into her truth. As she gathered her belongings, the finality of her actions urged her onward. She didn't know how he would respond, but she now understood that this was the first step in crafting not only her future but also nurturing her children's aspirations. Little did she realize that the real tests of her strength were just beginning. As she left the cafe, a mix of elation and trepidation danced within her, highlighting what was yet uncharted. The moment of confrontation may have shifted in her favor, but would the tension of his reaction linger like an ember? Would this redefine their co-parenting relationship for better or worse? One question tugged ominously at her thoughts: how far would he go to maintain control over the situation? The week that followed Sarah's confrontation with Jake felt like a slow march through a foggy landscape. Each day brought a cascade of emotional ripples, echoing her decision to stand firm. She fluctuated between hope and uncertainty, wondering how her new boundaries would settle within the intricate web of their co-parenting relationship. At night, as she prepared her lessons for nursing school, her mind wandered back to the cafe, where she had claimed her truth. The confidence she had felt then felt like an infrequent visitor, coming and going without warning. Most days, the whispers of doubt crept back in, reminding her of her vulnerabilities, the very ones Jake had exploited for so long. She found herself pouring more heart and energy into her studies, rediscovering the passion that had ignited her desire to enter the nursing field in the first place. Each textbook was a stepping stone, marking the distance from her past to her aspirations. The more she immersed herself in learning, the more empowered she felt. However, as she nestled into this new role, the realities of her situation loomed larger. Jake had called once to discuss the children, though the interaction felt loaded with veiled threats. His dismissive tone and insistence that her new lifestyle choice would inevitably interfere with their kids weighed heavily on her. She could sense he was testing her resolve, hungry for moments of weakness to exploit. One evening, as she sat at the kitchen table, a cup of tea cooling beside her, she reflected on conversations she'd had with her friends, strong women who had navigated their own challenges. Her phone buzzed with a new message, a reminder from her study group. A chance encounter with their experiences tightened the knot of determination within her. They were not just friends, they were allies in a shared pursuit of growth and independence. Maybe it's time to step things up, she murmured to herself, the words acting as a catalyst for action. The thought ignited a strategy. Sarah could use every skill she was acquiring in school as a stepping stone not just for herself but as a blueprint to teach her children resilience and strength. The next day, she pitched the idea of an experiential learning exercise for her children. They could participate in the community service project her nursing program organized, volunteering at a local health fair. "It's a chance for you both to see what helping others looks like firsthand," she explained at dinner, her eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "You'll be making a difference." Her children, with their boundless energy and naturally inquisitive minds, accepted the proposal eagerly. The idea of helping others resonated with them, a perfect mix of learning and doing that filled Sarah with pride. As the day of the event approached, anticipation coursed through her veins. She prepared alongside her children, and their cooperative spirit burgeoned. They practiced how to interact with the fair attendees, and her daughter even created a poster advocating for healthy habits. For Sarah, it was more than an outing, it was an embodiment of how her personal growth could lead to a shared legacy of empowerment. Yet, as the event drew nearer, the threat of Jake's reaction lingered on the peripherals of her mind. She steeled herself against the possibility of him attempting to pit the children against her, reminding herself that she was no longer that woman who would shrink back in fear. The day arrived with vibrant energy, the air buzzing with voices and laughter. As she and her children moved among the booths, Sarah felt a stirring pride. Each moment reinforced her mantra: she was creating a ripple of positive change, both for herself and her children. But as they prepared to leave, a familiar figure appeared at the perimeter of the fair. Jake stood watching, arms crossed, wearing a mask of feigned indifference. Sarah's heart dropped as she felt the air thicken with tension. This was the confrontation she hadn't anticipated. His expression held both jealousy and determination. "Looks like you doing well for yourself," he called out, his tone sharp, laced with unexpected hostility that sliced through the ambient joy. "Just trying to build something better, Jake," she replied, forcing her voice to remain calm as she faced him, determination flooding back. Would this confrontation only reinforce her resolve, or would it shatter the fragile peace she had built in her new identity? The moment hung there, a testament to the volatility of their dynamic, pressing Sarah to confront not just Jake, but the shifting elements of her own courage. Would her newfound strength hold against his tactics, or was she still vulnerable to his manipulation? This encounter was anything but over. The tension between Sarah and Jake was palpable, a charged silence enveloping the space around them. She could feel her heart racing, the echo of her pulse drowning out the laughter and chatter of the fair. In that moment, the energy shifted from the warmth of her children back to the cold reality of her past relationship. His presence was a reminder that the journey toward independence was still fraught with obstacles. "Building something better, huh? You mean trying to play the good mother while you're off living your new life?" His voice dripped with sarcasm, each word a calculated jab designed to penetrate her newfound resolve. She inhaled deeply, grounding herself in the vision of what she wanted to achieve not just for herself, but for her children. "You know, Jake, being a good mother doesn't mean entrapping myself in the past," she countered, feeling a surge of defiance rise within her. "It means showing them how to stand tall, regardless of what anyone says." The corner of his mouth twitched, whether in annoyance or amusement, she couldn't tell. What she did know was this exchange was pivotal, a line drawn in the sand that she refused to unmark, no matter the outcome. "You can play the victim card all you want, but you don't get to pretend your choices don't affect our kids." The accusation stung, but Sarah refused to let it cut deeper than skin. She had spent too long under the weight of his opinions, too long allowing his manipulations to dictate her self-worth. "They'll learn from my choices, and they'll know it's possible to be strong regardless of who's around. Maybe you should think about what kind of role model you're being." For an instant, she felt light, empowered by her words. Jake's reaction, however, confirmed her earlier instincts. He was digging in his heels, determined to retain control over the narrative of their lives. What she wouldn't allow was for him to paint her journey as selfish. In this moment of confrontation, clarity swept through her. She was not just standing up for herself, but for the life she envisioned for her children, one of strength, possibility, and determination. The children's laughter pulled Sarah from the charged exchange, grounding her once more in her role as a mother. She turned slightly, ensuring they felt her presence, her determination seeping through the air like an unspoken promise. "Let us go, team," she said, rallying her kids, her voice bright despite the underlying tension. As they walked away, she cast one last glance over her shoulder at Jake. Despite the confrontation, she felt a flicker of relief mixed with pride. She had held her ground. There was still a long road ahead, and she would need to brace herself for future encounters with him, but today had been a step, however small, in reclaiming her narrative. Back home later that evening, the weight of the confrontation began to settle in. The comfort of her home wrapped around her like a warm blanket, isolating her from the world outside. She poured herself a glass of water, fingers trembling slightly, still vibrating from the adrenaline of the day. Each gulp was a reminder to herself, she had spoken her truth. Speaking it was no longer an isolated act for when the next storm raged. As she reflected on the day, Sarah knew she had tapped into a reservoir of strength she hadn't fully acknowledged before. Each volunteer experience, each lesson learned in school, had been preparing her for these moments, the moments where she would have to confront not only Jake but also the challenges of single motherhood. She could feel her professional and personal worlds colliding in the most unexpected of ways. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the counter, disrupting her thoughts. It was a group message from her study group, inviting her to a small gathering. The idea of connecting with other women on similar paths excited her, a chance to exchange triumphs, fears, and strategies. Perhaps this was another opportunity for growth, not only for herself but for her children to witness resilience in action. A playful smile curved her lips. "Why not?" Sarah murmured. But just as she decided, her phone chimed again, a message from Jake. The calm she had created began to ripple outwards as curiosity mixed with apprehension. What could he possibly want now? As she hesitated, staring at the screen, she confronted the question she'd been avoiding. How far was she willing to go to protect this new life she was building? The glow of the phone illuminated a single thought: the battle was far from over. The moment hung heavy in the air. The next move had to be calculated, not impulsive. Would this be an overture toward reconciliation, or another attempt at manipulation? With her heart racing, Sarah clicked to open the message, feeling the gravity of her choice settle in. The weight of uncertainty hung over Sarah as she opened Jake's message. Each pixel on the screen was a small reminder of the tumultuous past she was trying to escape from. Her finger hovered over the icon, the moment both electrifying and anxiety-inducing. Was this the beginning of another round in a never-ending fight, or an unexpected olive branch? With a deep breath, she swiped the screen. The message was short, almost too casual given the gravity of their last encounter. "Can we talk? I think we need to sort things out." Her stomach turned. Talk? What could they possibly say to each other that could change anything? The confrontation from the fair echoed in her mind, and part of her felt emboldened by her defiance. Yet, another part of her wondered whether there was merit in addressing their shared responsibilities. Her professional development, her journey toward independence, seemed as fragile as spun glass, teetering at the edge of fragility so easily shattered by a single misstep. The invitation to the study group was still fresh in her mind. It represented a place where she could grow, share experiences, and potentially find strategies to confront the challenges ahead. Couldn't this be a better use of my time? She thought. She envisioned herself surrounded by supportive women, each one on their path, navigating the complexities of life and motherhood. After a moment, Sarah hesitated, her heart whispering instincts louder than her analytical side. It was a chance to establish boundaries, to communicate her terms clearly. A negotiation, if you will. She had already taken a step toward empowerment by standing firm earlier that day. To dismiss this message without a thought might seem like fear talking. In a moment of clarity, she decided there was strength in response, particularly if it meant asserting her boundaries further. Her fingers began to type. "Let us meet to discuss when I'm not so busy. I'll let you know when I'm free." She felt empowered again, an anchor amidst the turbulent waters of her past. As she hit send, the small victory radiated through her. It wasn't about Jake, it was about her recognition of self-worth and unwillingness to let anyone dictate the course of her life anymore. She may still be adjusting to single motherhood and navigating her studies, but that didn't mean her voice couldn't command respect. An hour passed before her thoughts turned back to the gathering. It was time for her to embrace those connections, to transform her bubbling fear into tangible action. Sarah quickly dressed, choosing a bright, bold outfit that reflected her internal shift. The hues of orange and blue felt lively, emphasizing a woman ready to conquer her narrative. As she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized the confident woman staring back. Driving to the meeting, anticipation mingled with residual anxiety. What would they discuss? How would their stories intertwine? She considered the possibility that maybe they might face the same doubts, worries, and victories. Perhaps sharing her journey could lend someone else the strength she had found today. As she entered the cozy cafe, laughter and warm conversation enveloped her. The group was already engaged, discussing the challenges of balancing motherhood and personal pursuits. Immediately, she felt the gravitational pull of belonging, something she hadn't felt in a long time. But as she settled in, Jake's message crept back into her thoughts. Everyone at the table seemed to thrive in sharing their lives with such ease, and it made her face the gnawing question: had she truly moved on, or was this a delicate balance she had yet to master? With that seed of doubt planted, the word balance lingered in her mind. Would the conversation with Jake throw her newly forged empowerment off kilter? What would happen when their next confrontation arose, a battle against a past that still cast shadows over her future? The door swung open, and a figure strode in. Sarah's heart sank as her eyes met Jake's. The calm of the cafe faded, her internal conflict roared to life. She hadn't expected this. The foundations of her newfound strength felt more precarious than before. As he approached her table, she clenched her fists, adrenaline igniting once more. Would she rise to face him or retreat back into the shadows? The moment loomed. The air thickened with tension. Which version of Sarah would emerge this time? As Jake approached, Sarah felt like a diver poised on the edge of a cliff, clouds of uncertainty swirling below. His presence, once a source of comfort, now evoked a tumultuous mixture of emotions. What would she say? How would she act? The intensity of the moment forced her to confront an unrelenting truth. She was not the same woman who had once easily succumbed to his charm. "Hey," he said, his tone both inviting and apprehensive. "Hi," she responded, her voice steadier than she felt. The occupied table seemed to vanish as all her focus honed in on him, that familiar mix of anger and anguish mixing in her gut. "Do you mind if I join you?" he asked, gesturing to the empty chair across from her. With a nod, Sarah's heart raced. This was an opening, a chance to assert herself. She had taken steps toward independence and was not about to let this moment slip away. "Actually, I was hoping you could tell me what this is about," she said, cutting the chase. Jake seemed taken aback, but he quickly masked it with a calm demeanor. "I wanted to apologize for our last encounter. Things got out of hand, and I think we need to clear the air." "It's about co-parenting," she echoed, testing the weight of the word. It felt like handling a lit nerve. Her mind spun back to that confrontation, how powerless she had felt in the heat of the moment. "And what about it? You think we can just turn the page?" A flicker of conflict crossed his features. "I genuinely hope we can try." "Hope isn't enough, Jake." Her voice gained strength with every word. "You disappeared when I needed you most, and now you want to talk about togetherness?" He leaned forward, attentively, perhaps too much so. "I know I messed up. I want to do right by you and, more importantly, by our child. Can we at least be honest about our challenges?" His intensity mirrored her internal struggle, past emotions colliding with the exponential growth she had experienced in just those few hours. "Honesty?" Sarah asked, the irony flooding her thoughts. "That's rich coming from you." She paused, letting the moment hang heavy. It was time to confront not just him but herself. The lingering doubt, the fear of falling back into old patterns, a denial of her own progress. "If you want a real conversation, then let's make it a conversation. Not just a facade where we pretend everything is okay." With a slight smile wavering upon his lips, Jake responded, "Fair enough. It was a subtle acknowledgement that sparked hope within her. Perhaps this would be a true turning point. But as they delved deeper into matters of planning and boundaries, Sarah's original confidence began to play tricks on her. The more they defined how to navigate shared parenting, the more she felt the weight of their past dragging her whirlpool of emotions. Would he revert to the man she had once known? A sudden thought struck her. Was this really about co-parenting, or was it a step toward a reconciliatory path that could unravel her hard-won independence? The very idea sent tremors through her. Jake caught her distracted gaze. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I just need to think," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked at her, a soft play of concern crossing his features. "Thinking is good." But as he spoke, a realization crystallized in her mind. A powerful revelation surged inside her. She had a choice. She could stand her ground, hold on to her new sense of self, or risk losing it in the labyrinth of what lives. "Because I want to go back to how things were," she declared, her voice cutting through the weight of uncertainty. "You don't get to decide how I navigate my life anymore." The cafe buzz resumed around them, yet their conversation formed an island of tension amid the safe chatter. She had finally brought to light the shadow of doubt. Would he embrace this assertiveness, or would he push back, as he had so many times before? As Jake's expression grew thoughtful, Sarah absorbed the atmosphere, anchoring herself within it. This conversation represented a pivotal juncture not just for them but for who she wanted to be moving forward. Jake finally spoke, his words hanging between them like a whispering wind filled with fate. "Let us dig deeper, Sarah. We have so much to untangle." And as the curtain of their past began to lift, a new fear took root. Was she ready to face everything that was buried beneath the surface? In that charged moment, she understood there would be no easy answers, only further complexities to confront. Exhaling slowly, she felt the tide of both anxiety and anticipation swell within her. "Let us see where this goes," she replied, her heart steady yet vulnerable. With resolve pulsing through her, she braced herself for the unveiling of truths her personal development would demand no less. What lay ahead was a journey not only through the intricacies of shared parenting but an authentic exploration of her own redefined identity. As the warmth of the cafe began to fade, she realized the real battle wasn't only with Jake, it was unearthing the hidden strength she had yet to fully embrace. A determination ignited deep within her, a choice to stride into the unknown rather than shrink back, but the pulse of doubt whispered still. What if their past loomed larger than their present could bear? Days turned into weeks, and with every encounter with Jake, Sarah found herself navigating an intricate dance of emotions. Her resolve was sometimes tested to its edges, but as they began to openly discuss co-parenting and each other's roles in the children's lives, something shifted within her. She had planted the seeds of her identity fiercely into her resolve, and slowly, but surely, they were beginning to take root. During their conversations, she expressed her expectations clearly, and with each articulation of her boundaries, she gained more clarity about her own narrative. She began to believe firmly in her ability to balance the responsibilities of motherhood with her ambitions of becoming a nurse. It was a symbiotic relationship, one that demanded as much from her children as it did from herself. She started bringing them into her world, involving them in projects related to her studies, and teaching them valuable life lessons along the way. One Saturday, Sarah organized a study session at their dining table. Her children sprawled with their art supplies while she flipped through nursing textbooks. Creating a bridge between her studies and their learning solidified her transformation. They worked together, her children drafting healthcare-themed posters for their school's upcoming health week while Sarah read up on pediatric care. "Mom, I want to help people like you," her daughter exclaimed, her eyes brimming with enthusiasm. Sarah's heart swelled with pride and gratitude. Her journey was manifesting into something far greater than herself. Later that week, she received an email from her nursing school about a scholarship opportunity for single parents. The chance for financial relief while still pursuing her dreams felt like the universe was aligning with her newfound strength. With Ethan's encouragement resonating in her mind, every journey begins with a first step. She dashed off an application, fully invested in her sense of self-worth. On the day of the interview for the scholarship, her heart raced slightly more than usual. But rather than fear, what filled her veins now was a strong sense of purpose. Clad in a semi-professional outfit that showcased her identity as both a mother and a budding healthcare professional, she faced the interviewing panel with confidence. She spoke passionately about her aspirations, the challenges she had overcome, and her heartfelt commitment to making a difference in her community. Each question posed wasn't a test of her capabilities but an opportunity to highlight her evolution. Afterward, she felt exhilarated. She had followed her instincts, and for the first time in years, she left the room brimming with assurance. Weeks later, as the kids settled down to a cozy movie night at home, an email notification broke the silence. Sarah clicked to open it, and as the words, "Congratulations. You have been awarded the scholarship," filled the screen, tears stung her eyes. The weight of her struggle and resilience washed over her like a gentle tide. With her children cheering her on, Sarah experienced a rush of pride. This achievement wasn't just hers, it belonged to them too. Through persistence and purpose, she had conquered not only a significant milestone in her education but had also fostered an indelible legacy of hope for her little ones. The next day, she called Jake to inform him of the news. She wanted him to witness this evolution, to acknowledge that their co-parenting journey was not about regret, but about shared victories. "They are aware of your role too, Jake. I want them to see both their parents striving for something greater," she noted, her voice steady. There was a moment of silence before he responded. When he eventually spoke, a hesitant acknowledgement colored his voice. "That's great, Sarah. I know you've worked hard for this." Sarah felt a flicker of hope at his words but remained cautious. No longer would she allow his recognition to determine her self-worth. She was carving out space for her identity, and no one could take that from her. As she faced Jake during their next co-parenting meeting, she stood tall. They discussed logistics, school events, homework responsibilities, and family commitments interspersed with laughter over shared milestones. It felt surreal, but also right. Boundaries had shifted, the past slowly fading as acceptance fortified their present. Months later, on graduation day, Sarah walked across the stage in her nursing cap and gown, her children, their proud faces beaming with joy, in the front row of the audience. Each step felt secure, the culmination of fears transformed into determination, struggle into achievement. As she held her diploma high, the audience erupted into applause. It echoed the affirmation she had built within herself. In that radiant moment, she embraced who she had become, a warrior for her dreams, a devoted mother, a source of resilience for her children. For Jake, the fabric of their relationship had woven into something lighter, adapting to their new reality, the one they both learned through struggle and acceptance. Sarah had achieved not merely a professional goal but cultivated a fully realized personal identity. She had forged her pathway, anchored in strength and purpose, proving that her past did not dictate her future. In the days that followed, she continued to grow and learn, but more significantly, she remained anchored in her family. Each night, as she tucked her children in, she recounted tales of her journey, the lessons learned and the dreams yet to fulfill. Together, they formed a tapestry of hope and empowerment, a testament to the indomitable spirit that resided within her. This was Sarah's moment, the reward for all she had fought against, and the beginning of a radiant future ahead. Now, this is your moment to seize the inspiration from Sarah's remarkable journey. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and share your thoughts on Sarah's incredible transformation in the comments. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion, a beacon of personal overcoming stories that truly matter.